If you think that Tommy John surgery is basically a velocity upgrade, you need to watch this video. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and a former Division I pitcher, and I've worked with tons of throwing athletes, and I still hear these 5 myths from players, parents, and even coaches. Some of these things you might believe in, but by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why they're wrong and what to do instead. Let's get into it. Myth number 1, ice your arm and you'll recover quicker. Icing is everywhere now. Every dugout has a cooler, and every recovery plan involves an ice pack. This has been a baseball tradition for decades now, passed down from coach to coach, generation to generation. Nobody questions it. Here's the problem. Icing doesn't actually speed up your recovery. What it does is numb pain and reduce inflammation. But inflammation is what signals our body to start rebuilding after we're done throwing. Throwing creates micro trauma to the muscles and the connective tissue around the shoulder and the elbow. That inflammatory process is what kickstarts that whole process of starting to rebuild those tissues after we're done throwing. So when you ice aggressively after you throw, you're just kind of delaying that signal. You're not actually helping that tissue adapt to the stress that you just put it through. So all you're doing is just masking soreness. You're not fixing fatigue. I see this all the time in the clinic. Guys who ice religiously after every single outing, all they do is continue to show up with the same soreness week after week, because icing was never addressing the actual problem in the first place. It feels productive, it feels like recovery, but feeling like you're doing something and actually helping that tissue adapt are two different things. So what actually helps? Well, immediately after a heavy outing, we want to shoot for active recovery. So this is going to be some light movement, just getting some blood flowing. This could be light band work and some form of cardio. So essentially what we want after a harder throwing session is more blood flow. Blood flow is going to be what delivers all those nutrients to the tissue that got damaged while we were throwing. So we want to give our arm what it actually needs, not just numb it into silence. So all in all, icing can be comfortable to do after an outing, but we don't want to confuse comfort with recovery. Make sure we're hitting an active recovery after those heavy sessions. Myth number 2, if you want a stronger arm, just throw more. More bullpens, more long toss, more flat grounds, just more reps in general. That logic feels intuitive. More reps equals more strength, right? That's usually how it is with most sports. But your arm doesn't get stronger from just volume alone. It gets stronger with proper load management plus recovery. Every throw is a stress event on that shoulder and elbow. Tendons, ligaments, muscles, they're all going to take on load with every single throw. If you keep adding throwing volume and not giving your arm enough time or the right inputs to adapt, you're not building arm strength. You're just accumulating fatigue on top of fatigue that never got resolved. I've worked with plenty of guys that are doing 5 to 6 high intensity days throughout the course of the week, and these guys typically have more issues than the guys doing 2 to 3 high intensity days throughout the course of the week. And that's all because these guys have an actual strength and recovery plan behind what they're doing on the field. The high intensity, high volume guy looks like he's working harder, but in reality, the guy that's doing a little bit less with an actual structured plan is going to be the guy that builds a healthy, durable arm. And this is because he's giving his body time to adapt in between sessions. Arm strength comes from what you do in between your throwing sessions, just as much as what you do on the field when you're actually throwing. A dedicated strength program consisting of rotator cuff strength, scap stability, posterior chain work, all of that is going to help build a healthy, durable arm compared to just max effort throwing every single day of the week. So let's get into myth number 3. The more arm care exercises that you do after you throw, the healthier your arm is going to be. I see this with our guys all the time. They'll come in with a 20 exercise banded routine that they'll do after every single throwing session because sometime along the way they were told that more is better. And so they just kept adding exercises without actually taking away any of the previous ones. And here's the truth. It's not about doing more things, it's about doing the right things. If we start to get into more complex routines, the real cost of that is it starts to take about 45 minutes. All right, we got 20 exercises built into this program, and then all of a sudden that routine starts getting skipped because it takes too much time. Life happens, guys get busy, and that long routine is typically the first thing to go. So all we're looking for is 3 to 5 good quality shoulder exercises that will help focus on some shoulder mobility work and then also some shoulder strength. Do these consistently, mix it up a little bit, and that's going to do a whole lot more than that 20 exercise banded routine. And so this is exactly why I built the intensity matched arm care system the way that I did. So instead of one long protocol that you're supposed to do after every single time that you throw, this system is 4 different protocols that matches the intensity that you threw that day with a certain exercise protocol. So instead of one giant exercise routine that you're supposed to do every single day, regardless of how your arm feels, it was split up into 4 different protocols, one for each level of intensity. So going from your live outing, so your max effort sessions, all the way down to your light recovery days. This way you're always doing the right amount for what your arm actually needs that day. No guesswork, no 20 exercise banded routine that you're going to abandon in a couple weeks. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check the description below. More isn't protection. Doing the right things consistently, that is protection. Myth number 4, and this one drives me absolutely insane, that pain is just a part of the game. This mindset is what costs guys their arms, and sometimes even their careers. And I get where this comes from. Pitching is hard, it is demanding, and there's this culture in baseball that says you should be able to play through discomfort. But there is a critical difference between normal training soreness and pain, which is your body telling you like, hey, there is something wrong here. Some soreness and fatigue after throwing, normal. A dull ache in your arm after a heavy live outing, normal. But sharp pain that shows up while you're throwing, mid-delivery, it changes mechanics, and it's there consistently throughout the outing, that is not normal. That is your body giving you a massive warning sign, telling us, hey, there is something here we are not prepared for. I've had athletes come into the clinic months of throwing through pain, whether it be a parent or their coach or even their own mindset telling them that they could push through it. So what could have been a simple solution, whether it be a mobility deficit, a strength imbalance, or just a mechanic deficiency, has now turned into a much bigger issue that we have to solve. Ignoring pain doesn't build toughness. It turns a small, manageable issue into something that could be season-ending. And myth number 5, Tommy John surgery is going to make you throw harder. No, it doesn't. Now, this myth exists because some pitchers actually do come back from Tommy John surgery throwing harder. So typically guys are going to connect the 2 dots and just assume it was a surgery. But that's backwards. Any velocity gains that a pitcher gained from Tommy John surgery actually came from that structured, intentional rehab and strength program that they were forced to go through for a full year. So think about what that program actually consists of. A year of progressive strength work, mobility work, and a structured throwing program. And then don't forget that total buy-in, that they are all in on this program because they have no choice. That is the exact kind of disciplined program that most healthy guys don't even do when they're bouncing season to season. If you did that same structured routine, focusing on your strength and your mobility and actually watching your workload, you also might see those strength gains minus the year on the shelf. So the surgery actually isn't the upgrade. All the work that that player put in after the surgery is. All right, so in conclusion, it's not about doing more. It's not about more ice, more throwing, or even more exercises. It's just about doing the right thing consistently. That's what's actually going to protect your arm and keep you on the field long term. All right, that is a wrap on this video. If you're interested in that arm care protocol, go ahead and check the description below. And if you're looking for daily content, go ahead and check out my Instagram at MattClark_DPT. All right, gang, I'll see you next Monday.